possible financial means for detoxification therapies and disaster control, why they deny the facts and documented data concerning these dangerous levels of radiation among the population, in foods, and the environment. Does this sound familiar? This attitude has been the norm rather than an exception, right? As a result of this catastrophe, 40% of Europe was contaminated with dangerous radioactivity. Asia and North America were also exposed to significant amounts of radioactive fallout. According to several researchers, the United States Committee on the Effect of Atomic Radiation and several other groups that Chernobyl radioactive fallout added only 2% to the natural radioactive background ignores several facts. First, many territories continue to have dangerously high levels of radiation. Second, the high levels of radiation were spread far and wide in the first weeks of the catastrophe. Third, there will be decades of chronic low-level contamination after the catastrophe. 4. Every increase in nuclear radiation has an effect on both somatic, that's your body, and reproductive cells in all living organisms. Another important lesson from the Chernobyl experience is that the experts and organizations tied to the nuclear industry have dismissed and ignored the consequences of this. It was only after 8 or 9 years that medical authorities began finally to admit the universal increase in cataracts among the population of the planet. The same occurred with thyroid cancer, leukemia, and organic central nervous system disorders. And this wasn't just in Europe, guys, this was worldwide. In addition to that, it is known that the percentage of food products with radioactive contamination in excess of official permissible levels did not decrease for 14 years after the 1986 Chernobyl catastrophe. On the contrary, this percentage began to increase once again in 1996. In spite of official secrecy, the full picture of Chernobyl food contamination in countries as far away as the United States has been finally beginning anyway to emerge. Many people suffer from continuing chronic low-dose radiation 23 years after the catastrophe, owing primarily to the consumption of radioactivity and the contaminated food. An important consideration is the fact that it has been given an identical diet. A child's radiation exposure is 3 to 5-fold higher than that of an adult. Since more than 90% of the radiation burden nowadays is due to cesium-137, which has a half-life of 30 years, contaminated areas will continue to be dangerously radioactive for roughly the next 3 centuries. When children have the same menu as adults, they get up to 5 times higher dose burdens from locally produced foodstuffs because of their lower weight, of course, and their more active processes of metabolization. Children living in rural areas have dose burden 5 to 6 times higher than those in city children, same age. Daily exposure to small amounts of radionucleotides is virtually unavoidable as they get into the body with food, up to 94%, and drinking water, up to 5%, and through the air, about 1%. Accumulation of nucleotides in the body is dangerous enough, primarily to children and those living in a contaminated territory where there are high levels of, again, 137 in local food. The incorporation of radionucleotides is now the primary cause of deterioration of public health in contaminated areas. Definitely. Experience has shown that the existing official radioactive monitoring systems are sickeningly inadequate, not only in countries of the former Soviet Union, of course. Generally, the systems cover territories selectively. They do not measure each person and often conceal important facts when releasing information. I told you guys when Fukushima went off that they turned off the radioactive detectors in Ottawa. They turned them off because they kept going off. Anyway, they want to minimize spending for which they are not directly responsible, I guess, such as Chernobyl, which occurred 23 years ago. Thus, officials are not eager to obtain objective data for their radioactive contamination of communities, individuals, or food. We have to take responsibility not only for our own health, but the health of future generations of humans, plants, and animals, which can be harmed by mutations resulting from exposure to even the smallest amount of radioactive contamination. So, let's go to you know what, I'm going to take a break here. I'm going to get some tea, and I'll be right back.
40 acres and a mule. Where's my 40 acres and a mule? My relatives are down in New Orleans, Tennessee, and Detroit. Help build that land in slavery until the Civil War done destroyed it. Where's my 40 acres and a mule? 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 Somebody moan. Put your back down, baby. Ain't no sense you getting all mad at me. Oh, put your back down, mama. Don't get all mad at me. It's my rolling blues, child. Got your third degree. Look at you, looking at me. Where they from? Your eyes are narrow. You about to throw down.
Welcome back, everyone, and I've got a question. So why aren't the elites worried about it? Why? Well, because there is a shot that will completely remove radioactivity from your body. It will. You most likely have to take it once a day for the rest of your life, except this shot at this point costs $10,000. But there is 100% cure for this. I'm thinking most of us can't afford that, so that's why they're not worried. Anyway, Chernobyl disaster. All people living in territories heavily contaminated by the fallout continue to be exposed to low-level doses of chronic radiation. Without special equipment to identify the levels of environmental contamination, it is impossible to know what nucleotide levels are in our food and water or have been incorporated already into our bodies. The radioactive elements, cesium, strontium, plutonium, americanum, released in Chernobyl concentrated in the roots of plants, and it is now known that they will continue to be mobilized for decades, even up to hundreds of years into the future. Agriculture products have contained and will continue to contain radioactivity in all of the northern hemispheric countries that have been contaminated by Chernobyl. The levels of radionucleotide incorporated in our bodies varies, of course, according to each organ. Chernobyl, the most effective organs from autopsies were the thyroid gland, adrenal glands, pancreas, the thymus, the skeletal muscle, the spleen, the heart, and the liver in decreasing order. Thyroid gland is the most affected since radioactive iodine binds to it, making supplemental non-radioactive iodine a key therapy in the case of nuclear radiation. Natural iodine will bind to the thyroid, blocking new radioactive iodine from binding to it. The affliction of the adrenals is worthy of attention too here, since there are many new diseases that emerged after Chernobyl disaster whose symptoms were at least resemble those of adrenal fatigue. The total Chernobyl death toll for the period of 1987 to 2004 has reached nearly 417,000 people in other parts of Europe, Asia, and Africa, and nearly 170,000 in North America, which you probably didn't hear that number, accounting for nearly 824,000 deaths worldwide. This number of Chernobyl victims will continue to increase for several generations. And just a note on radiation here. Radiation poisoning damages organ tissues by excessive exposure to ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation consists of particles or electromagnetic waves that are energetic enough to detach electrons from atoms or molecules, thus ionizing them. Direct ionization from the efforts of single particles or single photons produces free radicals, which are atoms or molecules containing unpaired electrons, and which tend to be especially chemically reactive due to their electronic structure, basically. This means that they became chemically unstable, highly reactive ions as free radicals are formed. These unstable metabolic byproducts strive to stabilize by stealing a replacement electron from the neighboring molecules, leaving even more damaged molecules in their wake. So it's like a rolling process, This is how free radicals in our bodies are produced, cause inflammation, a process that is best known as oxidative stress, oxidative damage, or lipid peroxidation. Oxidation can even cause dilapidating changes to your DNA. This is why antioxidants are so important. Antioxidants help to counteract or neutralize the free radicals before they can damage our healthy cells by lending a hand, an electron. Then stabilization is needed. So this is the reason why so many are so fond of antioxidants such as vitamin C, E, all the carotenoids, the little red things, resveratrol, taurine, coenzyme Q10, and melatonin, just to name a few. medical symptoms or syndromes. Nuclear or ionizing radiation that perpetrates the body can affect your body in a whole bunch of ways. The adverse health effects of extreme radiation and poison may not even be apparent for years. So, among specific